Bill Gates was not born into greatness. He grew into it through curiosity, obsession, failure, and relentless discipline. Born on October 28, 1955 in Seattle, Washington, William Henry Gates III grew up in a family that valued education, debate, and ambition. His father was a respected lawyer, and his mother was deeply involved in business and community service. Dinner conversations in the Gates household were not casual. They were intellectual, battlegrounds where ideas were challenged and opinions were defended. This environment quietly shaped Bill's mind, teaching him how to think critically and argue logically long before he ever touched a computer. As a child, Bill was shy, bookish, and intensely focused. He spent hours reading encyclopedias, memorizing facts, and solving puzzles. His parents initially worried about his withdrawn nature, unsure whether his habits would help or harm him. But everything changed when Bill was introduced to computers. At the age of 13, while attending Lakeside School, he encountered a teletype machine connected to a General Electric computer. The moment he began programming, something clicked. It was not just interest, it was obsession. Bill spent nights and weekends coding, debugging, and pushing the limits of what the machine could do. He skipped meals, ignored sleep, and lost track of time. To him, programming was not work. It was freedom. At Lakeside, Bill met Paul Allen, a fellow student who shared his fascination with computers. Paul was older, calmer, and more visionary, while Bill was aggressive, detail-obsessed, and fiercely competitive. Together, they formed a partnership that would change the world. They began writing software, breaking into systems just to understand how they worked, and learning faster than anyone around them. When Lakeside banned them temporarily for exploiting computer time, instead of punishing them permanently, the school allowed them to continue programming in exchange for finding bugs. This unusual deal gave Bill and Paul unlimited access to computer something, almost unheard of in the late 1960s. By the time Bill reached high school graduation, he was already thinking like a businessman. Along with Paul Allen and another friend, he created a small company that analyzed traffic patterns using computer software. It wasn't wildly successful, but it taught Bill an important lesson. Software could be sold, scaled, and used to solve real-world problems. This idea stayed with him. In 1973, Bill Gates enrolled at Harvard University, one of the most prestigious institutions in the world. On paper, he was following a traditional path toward success. In reality, his mind was elsewhere. While attending classes, Bill spent most of his time in the computer lab. He competed with other students to solve the most complex problems and quickly earned a reputation as someone who could outthink almost anyone. But Harvard was not enough. The classroom felt slow compared to the rapid evolution of technology happening outside. In 1975, Paul Allen showed Bill an article about the Altair 8800, one of the first personal computers. It was a turning point. Bill immediately understood the significance. Computers were moving from corporations into homes. This was the future. Without even owning the machine, Bill and Paul contacted the manufacturer and claimed they had software ready for it. They didn't, but they wrote it anyway day and night until they created a working version of basic programming language for the Altair. When they demonstrated it, it worked. That moment marked the birth of Microsoft. Bill Gates made one of the most important decisions of his life shortly after. He dropped out of Harvard. It was not an act of rebellion, but one of calculated risk. He believed software would become essential to every computer, and he wanted Microsoft to be at the center of that future. Many people doubted him. Dropping out of Harvard sounded foolish, even reckless. But Bill was not chasing a degree. He was chasing impact. Microsoft began as a small company, but Bill Gates ran it with an intensity that bordered on obsession. He expected excellence, precision, and total commitment from himself and from others. Employees worked long hours under immense pressure. Bill reviewed code personally, questioned every decision, and demanded logical justification for everything. He was known for being brutally honest, sometimes harsh, but always focused on improvement. His goal was simple but massive: put a computer on every desk and in every home. Running Microsoft software? The turning point for Microsoft came in the early 1980s when IBM approached the company to create an operating system for its personal computers. Bill Gates saw an opportunity others missed. Instead of selling the software outright, he negotiated a licensing deal that allowed Microsoft to retain ownership and sell the system to other manufacturers. This single decision changed the entire industry. Microsoft's MS-DOS became the standard operating system for personal computers, and Microsoft suddenly stood at the center of the PC revolution. As computers spread across offices, schools and homes, Microsoft grew explosively. Windows followed MS-DOS, making computers easier to use with graphical interfaces instead of text commands. With each new version, Microsoft tightened its grip on the market. Bill Gates became not just a successful entrepreneur, but a symbol of the tech age. By the 1990s, he was the richest man in the world. But success came with criticism. Microsoft was accused of monopolistic practices, crushing competitors and controlling the market unfairly. The US government filed antitrust lawsuits against the company, and Bill Gates found himself under intense public and legal scrutiny. During court testimonies, he appeared defensive and evasive, damaging his public image. For the first time, people began to see him not as a genius innovator, but as a powerful corporate figure capable of abuse. Yet even during these challenges, Bill Gates remained focused on the future. He understood that technology never stands still. As the internet emerged, Microsoft pivoted to embrace it, integrating browsers, online services, and new tools. Not every move was successful, but Bill believed in adaptation over comfort. Over time, Bill Gates began to change not just as a businessman, but as a human being. Witnessing global poverty, disease, and inequality shifted his perspective on wealth. He realized that money, at its highest level, carried responsibility. In 2000, alongside his wife Melinda, he established the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. What began as a philanthropic effort soon became one of the largest charitable foundations in history. The foundation focused on global health, education, and poverty reduction. Bill applied the same analytical mindset to philanthropy that he had used in software. He studied data, measured outcomes, and demanded results. Vaccination programs were expanded. Deadly diseases like polio and malaria were targeted, and millions of lives were improved or saved. Bill Gates transitioned from being a tech billionaire to a global humanitarian. In 2008, Bill stepped down from his day-to-day role at Microsoft to focus more on philanthropy. It was not an exit from ambition, but a redirection of it. He believed that solving global problems required innovation, patience, and scale qualities he had spent his entire life developing. Despite his success, Bill Gates remained a student. He continued reading obsessively, consuming books on science, history, economics, and climate change. He publicly shared reading lists, discussed ideas openly, and admitted when he was wrong. In recent years, Bill Gates has focused heavily on climate change, clean energy, and sustainability. He warns that the next global crisis may not be financial or technological, but environmental. Once again, he advocates preparation, innovation, and long-term thinking. His message remains consistent. The future is shaped by what we invest in today. Bill Gates' story is not just about intelligence or wealth. It is about obsession turned into discipline, privilege turned into responsibility, and ambition transformed into service. But he adapted, learned, and grew. From a quiet boy in Seattle to a global influencer shaping technology, health, and policy, Bill Gates changed how the world works. His life proves that success is not a single moment, but a long series of decisions, some bold, some flawed, all driven by belief. In the end, Bill Gates is not just the man who helped put computers in our hands. He is the example of how power, when paired with reflection, can evolve into purpose.